live digital marketing workshop, and today's workshop is part of a series that is called How to Start Video Marketing. And the objective of this series is to help people exactly like you to get started with video marketing, get up and running, and get using video as part of your wider digital marketing strategy. So my name is Elliot King. I am the CEO and co-founder of the international digital agency Mint Twist. You can find out more about us at minttwist.com. This video and this series of videos is being streamed to multiple channels across multiple platforms simultaneously. And we're doing this with some software that we've been using ever since we started live streaming, and it's called Restream. You can find out more about Restream at restream.io. And we are proudly co-producing this series of videos with them. So please do check them out. So without further ado, let's transition into the live stream and today's workshop. So what are we talking about in today's video? Well, we're talking about the exciting stuff. It's all about how to actually produce a video. So this is the filming, the recording of the video. So this video is part 3 in a series of 5, and that series is all about how to help you to start video marketing. Part 1 was about strategy, part 2 was about planning a series and creating an episode plan, and now part 3 is about actually producing the video content, so recording the video content. If you haven't watched part 1 or part 2, I would recommend you watch them first and then come back to this video in part 3. So what will we learn in today's video? Well, we're going to learn about how to use our episode plan that we created in part 2. We're going to learn about the video elements that help establish the style of the videos that we're trying to create. We'll look at some practical tips for recording, and then we'll look at some specific tips for those of you who are going to be starring in your own videos or appearing in your own videos. We'll look at some tips for how you can present in front of camera. So many of you will be watching this on live, lots of you will be watching it on a replay, but we really value comments and feedback. This is meant to be a conversation as much as it is a stream of information. So please put your comments below, ask those questions. We're definitely going to come back and answer them, and others will do as well. And you know what, why not just let us know who you are? Tell us your name and where you're watching from. That would be great. Okay, so let's get into it. So first of all, we're going to review our episode plan. So we spoke about the segments of the video. So we've got the video intro, we've got the series intro, we've got the call to action if it's relevant, we've got the middle part of the content. There's segments of content that is going to be defined within our episode plan, and we need that really before we start recording, because otherwise we're going to struggle. And the episode plan also tells us who, and what, and where, what we're going to see, and who it is, and where that location is, and how do we want our audience to feel, what do we want them to hear, what do we want them to see. That's obviously the key elements of getting the right shot, and also the timing of each segment. We would have want to have that planned out, and an episode plan might look like this. Obviously this is highly simplified. Our ones would have most videos would have a few more segments than this, but this is the key sort of information. And then we spoke about whether to script your videos. You can have a verbatim script, so where you write down every single word that you want every single character to say at every point in your video, or you can have some bullet point guides for each of the segments. My recommendation would be to move towards the bullet point guides for most video formats. Now there are some formats where you might want to script things a bit more tightly, but in my view, most marketing videos that are developed by most companies that are designed for the purpose of marketing, so being pushed out across social media, they don't need to be quite as highly polished as something like a TV advert might be. And for that reason, a bullet point guide kind of works. You got to find your own comfort zone. So what are the elements that are going to establish your style? First of all, you've got the setting. So where are you actually going to set your videos outside or inside, in a formal space or in an informal space. Your video setting communicates a lot of information to the viewer as soon as the video starts, as soon as they see the setting. So just think about the sentiment, the feeling, the messages that you're trying to create, and pick an appropriate background. Similarly with wardrobe, with the clothing, are you going to look business casual? Are you going to look highly formal? Are you going to look highly informal? Are you going to be wearing some form of outfit? If it's relevant, go for it. Because remember, we're talking about video here, so the visual cues are very, very important. So it brings us along to props. A prop can be anything from glasses to a hat, to a cricket bat, to a pen, to something that you're eating or drinking. So props can be used to support the messages that we're trying to push across. And then background. So background is a key element, and if you are going to create a series of talking head videos, you definitely want a consistent background, so you get consistency across the series. So background is always important, particularly important for certain types of videos. When we talk about music, if your videos are going to contain music, then you'll definitely want to either have the license for that music, or go to a royalty-free, a free place where you can download music that you can legally use. If you don't get the rights to use the music that's within your videos, you risk problems. There are a lot of locations where you can get royalty-free music, and some of them are shown here, and there'll be some links to more in the notes somewhere around this video. So recording tips, let's talk about lighting first. So there are two types of lighting, broadly speaking. There's ambient light, which is just the light around, and then there's direct light. So this is some form of light source that we've set up specifically to record that video. So studio lighting, if you like. Now when we talk about direct lighting, so meaning studio setup, we could still count natural light. If you set yourself up next to a mirror, or a window, beg your pardon, so you might have some natural daylight coming through the mirror, shining up your face, and that might be sufficient. If you're going to use external studio lighting, then you've got fluorescent or LED lighting. I beg your pardon, the natural light is the ambient light in the office, in your house, in the room, meaning the room lights, and any lamps that are around, and the direct sunlight is sunlight coming through a window. So the idea is, wherever we're going to sit ourselves, we want to make sure that the light is sufficient, and it's sufficient in the angles in which it's coming at. And the only way you can really do that is by setting up your frame and then looking at what it looks like through the camera, taking some test footage. And so the problem with a single direct light is you can get weird sort of shadows behind. If you don't get the light mix right, you might be too dark, you might be too bright. Trust me, it's a problem. Now, the frame is an important one. So what we're thinking about here is what's the most important elements of the shot? What do people actually need to see to get the information or the value that they need from that website? And so clearly, if our video is all about the food, the ingredients, then we can go close up on the ingredients. If it's a conversational piece with the chef talking to us and conveying information about how to cook the food, then some form of wide shot that incorporates the chef and some of what he or she is doing would be more appropriate. So pick the right frame for the right format of video. And so the three classic types of shot are wide. If you've got a group of people or a number of people in a shot, then you would definitely want a wide shot. Medium shot if it's just one person or one or two people quite close together, and a close-up, if and when that's appropriate. We spoke about the equipment in the last two, in part one and part two of this series. The thing about using mobile devices to record your videos, you've got to be careful about the shakiness. So a lot of smartphones will have built-in stabilizers. If your smartphone doesn't have a built-in stabilizer, it is possible to use software and even some hardware to increase the stability of a mobile device if it's not supported on a tripod. If you're using a mobile device and it doesn't need to move, then placing it on some form of static tripod or even selfie stick, that will work. For those of you who have iPhones and other phones where you have cameras to the back and front, typically the most powerful camera, the most effective camera, the camera that will capture the best video quality is the one at the back of the phone as opposed to the screen, so that you can see what's going on. So that's worth bearing in mind. Recording in landscape mode, so horizontally as opposed to vertically, is probably the easiest format to work with. So if you're going to repurpose your video for different channels, some channels like Instagram will lend themselves more to vertical video, channels like YouTube lend themselves more to landscape video. If you're not sure what channels you're going for at the moment, or if you're going for multiple channels that have different formats, my recommendation would be to shoot in landscape and reformat for vertical rather than the other way around. It's easier. Okay, camera capture. So if we're going to set up in a studio and we're going to use studio-based camera, we can set up off frame without using any zoom functionality. It's going to be more effective. We can also make use of a green screen that will allow us to overlay background images and other text and graphics, which will work well for certain types of explainer types of videos. Position your tripod at head height for most shots. If you're talking about filming a shoot with people, with characters in it, sitting at head height makes sense as default option. If you're capturing video with your camera, you need to be aware of noise coming from around. We need to be vigilant on quiet hums. So I can't tell you how many times I've recorded some video, but then there's been some form of random background noise that hasn't been obvious at the time, but the camera has picked it up, and it can be difficult to edit out noise. So another recording tip, if it's the sort of format where we can record from our desktop, which might mean live streaming, it might mean a Zoom conference, it might even be an animated video, or we might be recording our screen if it's some sort of desktop-based tutorial, then there's all sorts of software systems that we could use from our desktop, and actually it's very easy to capture that sort of footage. So microphones, you've got shotgun mics, which is those boom sticks. You've got a big long stick and you point it at the right person or people. We've got lav mics, which connect to your clothing, and either wired or wireless back to the recording source. You can connect a camera, you can connect a microphone directly to the camera, which gives you the benefit where it records the video and audio in an integrated track. You can use USB microphones for any desktop based recording. So when it comes to recording audio, try and keep yourself a consistent distance away from your microphone. If you are seen to be moving around to the left and right, the audio will go up and down, and you'll find that it will disturb the consistency of your video. So similarly, try and speak at a consistent level, or at least be aware of the fact that if you are going to shout randomly, it's going to pop in the video. So cultivating your personal style, tips for putting yourself in front of the camera. Well, the one thing that you can be sure of is if you don't have a plan, you will struggle. So if you haven't watched part 2, go back and watch part 2, and in fact watch part 1 as well, because part 1 and part 2 will set you up for success. If you've got an episode plan, you're much more likely to create a high quality video, and equally importantly, you're much more likely to create it in 1 or 2 or 3 or a minimized number of takes. The most time consuming thing is if you make 100 different takes, shots, and then when we get into the video editing process, which is the next part 4, then you will have a very time consuming job of pulling all that content together. So once you've got that plan, you're going to have, some bullet points or possibly a more detailed script. So practice it before you actually press the record button. Talk to yourself, talk to the mirror, and just practice. Dress for success. So, try and wear something, as we said, that's consistent with the sort of message that you're trying to push. If you do make a mistake while filming, you don't have to stop the camera. You really don't. In fact, you shouldn't. It's much easier if you just stop, pause for 5 seconds, then come back to the point at which you made the mistake and then start speaking again. When you get into the video editing step, it's much easier to edit out a gap rather than combine two different video files. So camera tips, and this is one for me in particular. Try to be more animated than you normally would. So try and be more animated than you normally would in real life. And the reason for that is because you're watching me on video and we're not face to face, we're not in the same room, you're not going to pick up on the same cues that you would do if you were in the same room. So for that reason, I have to be a more animated version of myself in order to be able to create engagement and, more importantly, to convey the sorts of information that I'm trying to convey for you now. Avoid perfectionism. Is it really that noticeable? Is it really that necessary for your particular type of format? If it's educational content, if it's interview content, do you need to worry about every single last slip of the tongue? Probably not. Key thing to ask is, will it distract from your message? So what have we learned today? We've learned how to use our episode plan. We've used the video elements that help you to establish the style of your video, of the format that you're going for. We've learned some recording tips, and we've learned about how to record ourselves. If you do have any questions, please reach out. You can reach me on LinkedIn or Twitter. More importantly, please do go and check out our digital marketing agency. There's lots more free resources, lots more free content, and there's free live workshops. So check out minttwist.com and get in touch if you think we can help. Okay, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.